Hey guys, House of the Dragon is a Game of Thrones prequel show that will air in 2022 on HBO. It's based on George R.R. Martin's book Fire and Blood. The key event of the prequel will be the Dance of the Dragons, a Targaryen civil war. Although it's a Targaryen civil war, Targaryens are not the only main characters in this time period. One major character among them being Corlys of House Velaryon, known as the Sea Snake. House Velaryon in general plays a key role in this war. The Dance of the Dragons was the most devastating war in the history of the Seven Kingdoms. A war of succession between Aegon II and his half-sister Rhaenyra, over their father Viserys I's throne. Both of them thought they belonged on the Iron Throne, when people started declaring for one of them or the other. Their fight divided the kingdoms in two. As I already said, the Game of Thrones prequel series House of the Dragon, although based on George R.R. Martin's Targaryen history book Fire and Blood, will not feature Targaryens only, but many other houses and many other legendary figures from that time period as well, including the Velaryons had for centuries remained the oldest and closest allies of the Targaryens. House Velaryon of Driftmark rules the island of Driftmark, the largest island of Blackwater Bay in the Crownlands. Their castle includes Driftmark and High Tide. The head of House Velaryon is titled Lord of the Tides and Master of Driftmark. The Velaryons are sworn to Dragonstone. Their arms depict a silver seahorse on sea green. Their words do not appear in the books, but according to semi-canon sources, they're the old, the true, the brave. House Velaryon, much like House Targaryen, is of Valyrian descent, and its members often have Valyrian features, such as silver hair and purple eyes. The traditional name of the Velaryons is Jacaerys, and in House of the Dragon the main character Rhaenyra's oldest son is named Jacaerys, as his father is from House Velaryon. It's traditional for the sons of House Velaryon to be given a taste of a seafarer's life when young. The positions of Master of Ships and Lord Admiral are often filled by a member of House Velaryon, as the family provides most of the royal fleet. House Velaryon is an ancient and proud house, with the blood of old Valyria in its veins. A noble house with a storied Valyrian lineage, the Velaryons had come to Westeros even before the Targaryens, settling in the Gullet on the low-lying and fertile isle of Driftmark, so named for the driftwood that the tides brought daily to its shores, rather than its stony, smoking neighbor Dragonstone. The castle of Driftmark housed their ancient high seat, the Driftwood Throne, which according to legend had been given to them by the Merling King to conclude a pact. Although never dragon riders, the Velaryons had for centuries remained the oldest and closest allies of the Targaryens. The sea was their element, not the sky. During the conquest, it was Valyrian ships that carried Aegon's soldiers across Blackwater Bay, and later formed the greater part of the royal fleet. Throughout the first century of the Targaryen rule, so many Lords of the Tides served on the small council as Master of Ships, that the office was widely seen as almost hereditary. They allied with House Targaryen from Dragonstone and House Celtigar from Claw Isle, both houses of Valyrian descent, while the Velaryons and Celtigars dominated the middle reaches of the narrow sea with their ships. The Targaryens ruled the skies with their dragons. The close relations between House Velaryon and Targaryen resulted in multiple marriages between the houses, both before and after the Wars of Conquest. Even the mother of Aegon the Conqueror was a Velaryon. House Velaryon officially allied with the Targaryens at the start of Aegon's conquest. Lord Daemon Velaryon was made Master of Ships by Aegon the Conqueror, after the mouth of the Blackwater Rush had been secured. Daemon died fighting for Aegon I in the battle in the waters of Goldtown, however. House Velaryon kept an influential position at the court of the Targaryen kings during the first 2 centuries of the Targaryen reign. It even was a Velaryon who became the first Lord Commander of the Kingsguard for Aegon the Conqueror. The most famous and strongest Velaryon to ever live is also one of the main characters in the upcoming House of the Dragon show, Corlys Velaryon, known as the Sea Snake. He is a fabled Lord of the Tides during the Targaryen Civil War, Master of Driftmark and the head of House Velaryon. He is the husband of Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the queen who never was. During the Dance of the Dragons, he became hand to Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, who was his niece and daughter-in-law. By the age of 7 and 30, Corlys was hailed as the greatest seafarer the Seven Kingdoms had ever known. Corlys was born in 53 AC to the eldest son of Lord Daemon Velaryon. He was named after his great-great-uncle, Sir Corlys Velaryon, who served King Aegon the Conqueror as the first Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Sir Corlys sailed aboard his Sea Snake, a ship he designed and built, on 9 great voyages to Essos. During his final voyage on Sea Snake, Corlys filled the ship's hold with gold and bought 20 more ships at Qarth, loading them with spices, elephants and silk. Only 14 ships made it to Driftmark, and all the elephants died, but it was still more than enough to make Corlys become the wealthiest man in all of Westeros. He took his nickname Sea Snake from his famous ship. Sir Corlys became head of House Velaryon and Lord of the Tides after the death of his grandsire, richer than Lords Lannister or Hightower through his expeditions. Lord Corlys used his great wealth to construct a new seat High Tide, where he stored his eastern treasures. In 90 AC, Corlys married the 16-year-old Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the only child of Prince Aemon Targaryen, who in turn was the eldest son of King Jaehaerys I Targaryen. 2 years later, Corlys sailed his fleet to Tarth to aid Prince Aemon in fighting the Myrish exiles who had invaded the island. Shortly before they left, Corlys' wife announced she was pregnant. During the campaign, Prince Aemon died, leading King Jaehaerys I Targaryen to appoint a new heir to the throne. He chose his second son Balon over Aemon's only heir, Rhaenys, thereby also passing over Corlys and Rhaenys' unborn child. Furious over this decision, Corlys gave up his admiralty and his place on the King's Small Council and returned to Driftmark with his wife. In late 92 AC, Rhaenys gave birth to a daughter, Laena. A son Laenor followed in 94 AC. When Prince Balon died in 101 AC, King Jaehaerys' I's succession became unclear again, and reports reached the court that Corlys was gathering ships and men to defend the rights of his son. When the king declared a great council would be held at Harrenhal to settle the succession, Corlys and his wife traveled there, using their wealth and influence to try and persuade the lords present to vote for Laenor, after Rhaenys and Laena had been passed over once again on account of their gender. Corlys' wealth, reputation and fame did much to support Laenor's claim, but in the end Balon's son Viserys received majority of the votes, and was named the Prince of Dragonstone. Following the death of Queen Aemma's reign in 105 AC, Grandmaster Runsider suggested to King Viserys I Targaryen that he shall take Corlys' 12-year-old daughter Laena to wife. King Viserys, however, chose Queen Alicent Hightower. Angered by the third time his wife and children had been scorned by House Targaryen, Corlys and his family did not attend the wedding in 106 AC. Instead, he made an alliance with Prince Daemon Targaryen, King Viserys' younger brother, equally angered by the king's marriage. Lord Corlys and his fleet fought alongside Prince Daemon Targaryen during the War for the Stepstones, when Daemon declared himself the King of the Stepstones and the Heir of Sea. Corlys placed the crown on the new king's head. In 113 AC, King Viserys I and his small council began discussions concerning a betrothal for Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, Viserys' heir. They eventually agreed on Corlys' son Laenor. Laenor and Rhaenyra were married in 114 AC and gave him 3 grandsons. By 115 AC, Corlys saw his daughter Laena wed to Daemon with his blessing. Through this marriage, Corlys would have 2 more grandchildren, the twins Baela and Rhaena Targaryen, born in 116 AC. The children of Corlys and Princess Rhaenys Targaryen both died in 120 AC, Laena Velaryon from childbed fever, and Sir Laenor Velaryon from a quarrel with a knight, which is rumored to have been organized by Daemon. Later in the same year, Prince Daemon, Laena's widower, married Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, Laenor's widow, when King Viserys I Targaryen died in early 129 AC, and the king's eldest son Aegon II Targaryen ascended the throne, passing over Viserys' appointed heir Rhaenyra. Corlys traveled to Dragonstone to lend his support in the struggle to his former daughter-in-law. Lord Corlys Velaryon sat on the Black Council during the civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. He was the greatest lord to pledge his strength to the cause of Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen, who was opposed by her half-brother, King Aegon II Targaryen. More than half of Rhaenyra's army was made of men sworn to House Velaryon. Corlys's fleet also gave the Blacks superiority at sea. Corlys was Rhaenyra's Hand of the Queen. When Lord Bartimaeus advised the princess to fly from Dragonstone to King's Landing at once, and reduce the city to ash and bone with her dragon, Corlys demanded to know how that would serve them, telling him we want to rule the city, not burn it to the ground. You'll see many Velaryons in the House of the Dragon, with the Sea Snake having the most screen time of course. He had served 4 kings and a queen, sailed to the ends of the earth, raised House Velaryon to unprecedented levels of wealth and power, married a princess who might have been a queen, fathered dragon riders, built towns and fleets, proved his valor in times of war and his wisdom in times of peace. The Sea Snake's life is so interesting that there is another Game of Thrones prequel in development, based on his life alone, called 9 Voyages. Whether you like the Sea Snake and House Velaryon or you prefer House Targaryen and their dragons, all of that and more you'll see in the House of the Dragon in 2022 on HBO. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned.